Welcome to part 3 of understanding the book of Daniel within the context of the book. Hope you listen to the first 2 videos because we're going to get into a running start and see if we can finish up these as quickly as possible. We're going to take a look at chapter 4 verses 18 through 21. Remember, this is a dream that Nebuchadnezzar had, the second dream he had. Belteshazzar, that was the dream that I, King Nebuchadnezzar, had. Now tell me what it means, for none of the wise men of the kingdom can do so. But you can tell me, because the spirit of the holy gods is in you. Upon hearing this, Daniel, also known as Belteshazzar, was overcome for a time, frightened by the meaning of the dream. Then the king said to him, Belteshazzar, don't be alarmed by the dream and what it means. Belteshazzar replied, I wish the events foreshadowed in this dream would happen to your enemies, my lord, and not to you. You notice here, there was a time that Daniel had to take, was overcome for a time. Basically, Daniel needed some confirmation on this too. So we have to keep that in mind. The tree you saw was growing very tall and strong, reaching out into the heavens for all the world to see. It had fresh green leaves and was loaded with fruit for all to eat. Wild animals lived in its shade, and birds nested in its branches. Now we got to understand that when we look at the introduction, King Nebuchadnezzar sent this message to his people. I want you all to know about the miraculous signs. A lot of people believe that Nebuchadnezzar actually wrote this chapter. So when we start seeing this, the physical interpretation for green leaves, fruit for all to eat, branches, this dream that he had, then we can start understanding the spiritual. Nebuchadnezzar's, once again, we look at some of these key words, what it means, the meaning, what it means, foreshadowed, and we know they're talking about a dream. But this shows another way that God uses to communicate. As a matter of fact, this one's being reinforced and taught again, so it must be, if God repeats himself, it's important. Talk about signs and wonders, dream, visions, so we can see what the main theme is. The main theme is communicating in dream. We're not told how God communicated with Daniel in this particular chapter, but it might have been a prayer, it might have been a direct connection. Daniel might have had his own dream. We don't know that, but we can concentrate on it and look at it and definitely say that God communicated with Nebuchadnezzar through a dream. But once again, Nebuchadnezzar wasn't able to interpret it, but Daniel was. Let's take a look and see if there's a form of communication taught in chapter 5. Many years later, King Belteshazzar gave a great feast for 1,000 of his nobles, and he drank wine with them. While Belteshazzar was drinking the wine, he gave orders to bring the gold and silver cups that his predecessor, Nebuchadnezzar, had taken from the temple in Jerusalem. He wanted to drink from them with his nobles and his wives and his concubines. So they brought these gold cups taken from the temple of God in Jerusalem, and the king and his nobles and his wives and his concubines drank from them. While they drank from them, they praised the gods made of gold, silver, bronze, iron, wood, and stone. So there we have some. We can see they're talking about valuables, temples repeated, and here we see drinking. Okay. It's a little hard to see a theme in over here, but let's go on a couple more verses. While they drank from them, they praised their idols made of gold, silver, bronze, iron, wood, and stone. Suddenly, You notice while. Now suddenly they saw the fingers of a human hand writing on the plaster wall of the king's palace near the lampstand, and the king himself saw the hand as it wrote, and his face turned pale with fright, and his knees knocked together in fear, and his legs gave way beneath him. Now, a lot of people miss this, and I kind of highlighted this to show who this was happening to. But we see king's palace. It happened to a king. Human hand. A hand wrote, and now the king, his face turns pale, his knees knock, and his legs give way. So here's the human form. God's writing in a human form. But when God shows up as a human form, he basically weakens the human form. So that's one important detail to take a look at. The hand wrote, communication, wrote. God's appearing in the form of a human hand. He's using writing as a form of communication here. So this is another form of communication that God uses. We'll go down to verse 11 here. There is a man in your kingdom who has within him the spirit of the holy gods. During Nebuchadnezzar's reign, this man was found to have insight, understanding, and wisdom like that of the gods. Our predecessor, the king, your predecessor, King Nebuchadnezzar, made him chief over all the magicians, enchanters, astrologers, and fortune tellers of Babylon. You notice how they don't use the word priest? This man Daniel, whom the king named Belteshazzar, has exceptional ability and is filled with the divine knowledge and understanding. He can interpret dreams, explain riddles, and solve difficult problems. Call for Daniel, and he will tell you what the writing means. So here we go. We're getting it's being repeated again. They can't figure out. They couldn't figure out what the dreams are. They can't figure out what the writing is. But Daniel has this exceptional ability, and he's filled with divine knowledge. Now, ability, I kind of use this turquoise with work. And ability is a form of work. So here we see in chapter 5, God uses handwriting, he uses appearances to communicate with us. What's the outcome of this one? So God has sent this hand to write his message. See, he's using kind of a human form, but only a part of it, and he's using writing to deliver a message. This is the message that was written. Mene, mene, tekel, and parsin. This is what these words mean. Mene means numbered. God has numbered the days of your reign and has brought it to an end. So basically, there's another time element. See, this is the time prophecy. Tiki means weighed. You have been weighed in the balances and have not measured up. So we're getting the word. This is another one to look at when you start seeing it. Weighed, the measure. Parsin means divided. Your kingdom has been divided and given to the Medes and the Persians. See, divided and weighed are actually related words. So you got to look for these things. Then, after all this happened, then, I want to highlight that, at Belteshazzar's command, Daniel was dressed in purple robes, and a gold chain was hung around his neck, and he was proclaimed the third highest ruler in the kingdom. That very night, see how the Bible consistently uses time? Belteshazzar, the Babylon king, was killed. So you can see, and Darius the Mede took over the kingdom at age 62. There's another. There's all these time elements that the Bible is consistent with. You're going to see this throughout. And we're going to go over, we're going to take a look at chapter 6 to see if we can pick up a time elements and or messages, if God communicated in there. We're going to skip right down to verse 19. Very early the next morning, the king got up and hurried out to the lion's den. When he got there, he called out in anguish, "Daniel, servant of the living God, was your God whom you serve so faithful, able to rescue you from the lion's den?" Now here, you see the word called, faithful, rescue. We see the time elements, early morning when. Daniel answered. See, these draw you to the main theme in the story. Daniel answered, "Long live the king." There's long, I guess he could, "My God sent his angel to shut the lion's mouth so that they would not hurt me, for I have been found innocent in his sight, and I have not wronged you, your majesty." Now, there's a communication element in here, because God sent an angel. The angel helped Daniel, but there's a communication there. The communication is, "Don't worry, Daniel, I got your back." Now, there's also another communication factor in here if you want to take a look at it. "For I have been found innocent in his sight, and I have not wronged you." See, God is watching. He knows that Daniel is innocent. So that's another form of communication that God uses with us. He watches. Let's go down verse 26 here. "I decree that everyone throughout the kingdom shall tremble with fear before the God of Daniel, for he is the living God, and he will endure forever, and his kingdom will never be destroyed, and his rule will never end." Now, here we go. Let me highlight these time elements here. Forever and never end, or it will never. So you see how these time elements draw you to the main theme again? This is the outcome of this whole story. "And he rescues and saves his people, and he performs miraculous signs and wonders in the heavens and on the earth. He has rescued Daniel from the power of the lions." So Daniel prospered during, there's another time period, the reign of Darius and the reign of Cyrus the Persian. So you can see, so far every single chapter has something to do with time. And when we get into chapter 7, I think what we'll do is finish this one up. We got a couple more chapters to finish up, but take a look at these time elements and pay attention to time elements. Pay attention to some of the key things that are really brought out in these stories. Highlight the words. It doesn't matter what color you use, but the more you get into it, the more you highlight it, the more you can slow it down, and the more God's Spirit has a chance to communicate all of this information to you, because you're going to see things that I missed. I'm just skimming over this real quick, and you can take a half hour, an hour on it. I got 15 minutes to do a video, and I'm reaching the end of my time on this one.